Good evening, Bridgeport. Thanks for coming out tonight. It's 7:49. This is our November 11th meeting. We are called to order. Please rise and pledge the flag. Thank you, everyone. Angela, roll call, please.
Laura Hauk,
Here.
Amy High,
Here.
Kyle Schenk, Megan Nolan,
Here.
Diane Gundrum, Tony Heil.
Here.
Saba Al-Zayed.
I'm here, and Mr. Schenk let us know ahead of time that he's not feeling well. We wish him well wishes and hope he's feeling better.
Madam President, we were in executive session from 7 o'clock to approximately 7:45 with regard to a personnel settlement as well as real estate acquisition.
Thank you, Mr. Bello. All right, for council consideration, we have approval of the October 14th, 2025 meeting minutes. Do you have a motion?
Make the motion. Second.
Motion from Ms. Halk, second from Ms. Nolan. Do you have any questions or comments about the meeting minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Just really quick, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that today is Veterans Day, so wanted to kind of take the time to for us to pause and offer our sincere gratitude to the men and women who have served in our nation's armed forces, to all our veterans and their families. You've made immense sacrifices to protect our freedoms and way of life, so thank you for your service. Enjoyed meeting some of our very own Bridgeport veterans today. Just thank you for their service. And thank you for the event that was planned today. It's always lovely to kind of meet everyone and, take that moment to pause and remember. All right, we can start off here with our first item for council consideration, Resolution 2025-28, approving letters of support on behalf of the Montgomery County Public Library and Norristown Public Library for 2 separate grant applications.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
I have a motion from Ms. Gundrum, second from Ms. Hauk. Do you have any questions or comments from council or the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Next up for council consideration, we have Resolution 2025-29, approving grant request for the local share account TASA program for the 440 Mill Street project at $508,692.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Motion from Ms. Hauk, second from Ms. Nolan. Do you have any questions or comments about that from council or the public? All those in favor? I do. Yep, come on up and state your name and address. Thank you.
Bob Demorad, 602 Ford Street. What is it?
You got it.
Bob, hi. It is the rehabilitation of the old Camelot lot, the lot that sits behind Wawa, converting it into a 56-space municipal parking lot with security cameras, lighting. Currently, one of the main reasons we can't allow people to park in there right now in the evening unless we have one of the generator-run light standards in there is because the wiring was connected to the Camelot. So when they demoed the Camelot, the lights no longer work. So new lighting, new security cameras, new landscaping, a couple of EV parking stations in there to, like I said, revamp that parking lot and convert it into a new municipal lot.
Okay.
Yeah, this is going to be really helpful for public safety, not just for there, but I think it's going to make a big impact.
All right, we had our motions from Ms. Hauk and Nolan. Any additional comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for your question. All right, I'd like a motion to dispense from the normal meeting. Regular order of business. And we would like to enter a hearing.
I'll make a motion to dispense with the ordinary business.
I'll second.
Motion from Mr. Heil, second from Ms. Hauk. Do you have any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. And we are in our hearing. Do you want to welcome up the...
I will. Thank you, President Al-Zayed. Good evening, everybody. As those of you in the audience or watching this at a later time on recording are aware, our prior meeting on October 14th meeting, no, excuse me, October 11th meeting, we went through and had a rather extensive, no, October 14th, I was right the first time. I was right the first time. Go with your gut, right? Anyway, our October 14th meeting, Mr. Lubitz from the county, our county planning service assistant, walked us through basically a synopsis of the text and map amendment to our zoning code that the Bridgeport Planning Steering Committee has been working on for the better part of 2 years. I think that Matt was very comprehensive while giving that initial presentation. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to entertain any questions or comments that members of the public might have after having been given the requisite time to review the draft use matrix, draft updated amendment, and draft new zoning map. If anybody in the audience has questions or comments they would like to have answered, either myself or Mr. Lubitz is present. I will note that we did have a resident submit via email some questions and comments, Miss Laura Gamble, and I did tell her that that I would register her questions and comments at the public meeting. There were 4 primary issues. One of the things that she pointed out, and I'm certainly grateful, was a minor clerical inconsistency. The INR, formerly INR, Institutional Residential Zoning District, has been renamed INS, and for consistency's sake, she caught one there. She also caught something regarding the transit-oriented district we have, TOD versus TO. So we made those corrections. So much appreciated for catching those clerical typos there. And I believe the other, she had a couple other more, I guess, more mundane questions that I think that after discussing with her, she was satisfied with the answer. But the primary question, I think the largest question or suggestion that she had was asking if council would be willing to consider adding an additional regulation in our parking requirement section of zoning code to account for or include visitor parking when it comes to parking regulations for multifamily properties, i.e. Apartments, rather than, and traditionally you'd see that for parking regulations for apartments, it's based on, X amount of spaces per X amount of dwelling units, or bedrooms per dwelling unit, and maybe no consideration for visitor parking. Municipalities historically have addressed that in one of 2 ways. They've either included it in their zoning ordinance, or they have delineated it in their subdivision and land development ordinance. And my comment to Ms. Gamble was that I thought it was a really good idea, a really good suggestion, something that council should certainly explore if they are interested in doing so moving forward. However, given the fact that we are here and council is ready to consider adopting the zoning ordinance this evening, but subsequently, the Planning Steering Committee has just begun reviewing and revising our subdivision and land development ordinance with the intention of ultimately adopting a revised version of that in the near future. My recommendation to council would be, should council want to consider inclusion of a regulation like this, we have the perfect opportunity to do so as we proceed with revamping and remodeling our subdivision and land development ordinance, our SALDO. So I thank Ms. Gamble for her comments and suggestions again. I did not receive any other comments or questions from the public on the zoning code. the zoning update. But again, if any members of council have any questions, if any members of the public wish to step forward, myself, and perhaps more importantly, Mr. Lubitz is here to address any concerns or questions you have this evening. Otherwise, if there are none, council could certainly entertain a motion to adopt these new zoning or ordinance 2025-2, amending Chapter 560 of Borough Code zoning.
I would first like to say thank you to Ms. Gamble for those very helpful comments. Ms. Gamble is an architect, and so some of those technical things that she pointed out are things that 20 years from now, when we were doing this again, we probably would say, what was that? Or the next borough manager would probably notice and say, that was probably something that's caused some confusion over 10 years. So her insights were very valuable, and I think the Saldo conversation next year will be very beneficial. So we've been working on this for quite some time, and before we pass it, I just want to thank Ms. Gundrum, Roger, Keith, Steve Wanzik, and Kyle Schenk, who've joined me on the Planning Commission to get this done. There's been a lot of thought and process into streamlining things to improve and simplify our zoning regulations to help with smart growth for businesses and for residents.
Do we have any additional comments or questions? And just once more, we are. We do. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. If you'd like to walk up and give us your name and address. Thank you.
My name is John Latanzi. I live at 311 Union Avenue. And I looked at the matrix that was sent out along with the zoning map, and which describes all the uses that are permitted and not permitted in all the different districts. And I noticed in R1 that a permitted use is a group home. Now, an R1 is a low-density district, and it's usually, or it is basically single-family dwellings, either attached or unattached. And I just wanted to know what the reasoning was for including a group home in that particular district. It kind of goes against what R1 is all about, or why it's set up.
Matt can explain.
That's a good question. So I don't believe this represents a change from the current ordinance. I believe it's allowed currently. I would have to double check that specifically, but typically, because of the case law surrounding group homes, what you're allowed to regulate about them, where you're required to permit them, they're typically the typical guidance is to permit them in any district that you permit single-family detached dwellings, and that's because a group home, while may represent a slightly different density, it doesn't function or change its appearance much differently than a single-family home. And while a single-family home that's turned into apartments, into several different residents might have a lot more coming and going, a group home typically does not experience that same coming and going in terms of vehicular traffic, or has the same needs for parking or anything like that, like if it was broken into 4 apartments.
If you're going to break something into 4 apartments, though, wouldn't you go for a conditional use or a variance?
Matt, that was a very
Especially in R1.
that was a far more eloquent way to answer it than I would. John, my response would be, John, this is one of the parts of our zoning code that has not changed. They were permitted in R1 and R2 previously, and they are still permitted. And frankly, as Matt alluded to, case law and the Fair Housing Act and other means of litigation would make it darn near impossible for the borough to negate the creation of a group home in nearly any zoning district.
Gentlemen, we're correct. There's a federal preemption issue. This is a federal law issue that preempts state law and local zoning.
Okay, I didn't know that. And I just have one more question. For a conditional use, I understand application has to be made to Borough Council, and Borough Council either grants or denies. For a special exception, those applications are made to the zoning board, and they either grant or deny. But I'm not sure about accessory use. Is that an application that has to be made to either council or the zoning board to be either granted or denied it? Or is it just automatically part?
I think it would depend on where it appeared in the zoning code, where that particular property was located. I've seen it done as a conditional use, and I've seen it done as a special exception. But it depends on whether that particular area in the code says you can have an accessory use by conditional use. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because on the matrix, I didn't read the code or reread the code.
Yeah.
But I did look at the matrix, and I see all the A's on there, and I'm thinking, well, I'm sure they have to go before somebody to get approval.
The conditional use has to be specifically set forth in that particular zone. The request for that, the ability to request that would be in there.
Okay, so somebody has to go approval.
That's right.
And I think that came up in the conversations we had about things like Airbnb and Verba, and wanting to make sure that we were protecting residents so that there wasn't going to be a separate rental space where people, so we were specifically looking out for that because it can be very confusing when suddenly there is a back cabin or something, which is rare, but we were working with a solicitor and everyone to figure out the right language for protections on that.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it.
I just have a couple of exhibits. The zoning ordinance amendment and map amendment itself has been marked as C1, Council 1. The proof of advertising was undertaken on 10/22/25 and 10/29/25, and C2 is proof of advertising. And then C3 is the Montgomery County Planning Commission letter approving the amendment, and frankly, their suggestion that the borough has done a wonderful job in moving this forward and making this compliant with their 2040 comprehensive plan, as well as the county's 2040 shared vision.
Thank you, Mr. Bello.
I would just, unless there's objection to the admission of those three exhibits, I would move for their admission at this point. I don't anticipate any objections, but if there are, please state them now. Council has no objection, and there is no one in the audience who has objected. So, Madam Chairman, you'll accept those three exhibits.
Yes, we'll accept them. Do we need a vote to accept them, or?
No, just accept.
We accept them. Thank you. Thank you for your questions. Were there any additional questions? Or Matt, did you have any comments you wanted to share with us? You don't have to, I'm just asking if you had a.
No, I don't have anything additional. I just, I think it's a lot of needed changes, and I appreciate the collaboration that we've had working on this for the past couple years. So.
Yeah, and
Thank you. You put in a lot of good work.
All right, I'm going to read off what we're voting on if there's no additional questions. Specifically, we're considering the ordinance 2025-2, amending the Borough of Bridgeport Code, Chapter 560 zoning, a comprehensive revision of zoning text and zoning map of the Borough of Bridgeport Code. Based off of what we've heard today, Council, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion from Mr. Heil, second from Ms. Hauk. Do you have any questions or comments from council or the public? All those in favor of adopting?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. All right. Now we would like a motion to resume the regular order of business.
I'll make the motion to resume regular order.
Motion, Mr. Heil.
Second.
Second, Ms. Hauk. Do you have any questions or comments from council or the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries, and we are resuming our regular order of business. All right. Next up for council consideration here, we have authorization to advertise ordinance 2025-03, amending the Borough of Bridgeport Code, Chapter 375, Parks and Recreation Areas.
I'll make the motion. Oh.
Pardon me. Pardon me, Councilwoman Hauk. Just briefly, I know that a couple meetings ago, we had a concerned business owner express issues that they are seeing in at Chiquino Field, which gave way to additional conversation about overall enforcement of laws across all of our parks. And this conversation ultimately kind of manifested into reviewing our current park and recreation ordinance and coming to the conclusion that it needed to be revised and I guess brought up into more modern standards. So I appreciate the help that Solicitor Bello and his associates at his firm gave to my office in putting our heads together and coming up with this recommended or draft version of what the new revised language could be for Chapter 375 of Park and of Borough Code, which is park and recreation areas. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion, Ms. Hauk. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Second, Ms. Gundrum. Do you have any questions or comments from council or the public? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Next up for council consideration, we have authorization to advertise ordinance 2025-04, amending the Borough of Bridgeport Code, Chapter 353, noise. And I believe there was just some edits on the ability to be loud regarding more like construction-based things.
So thank you, President Al-Zayed. Part of the new zoning ordinance that just got adopted was removing any regulation of noise from zoning and placing it solely in Borough Code for the police department to adjudicate and monitor over. So because we removed that from the zoning, we need to subsequently adopt an updated noise ordinance. So again, after discussion and recommendation from members of council, from our solicitor's office, and from administration, you now see in front of you a draft version of what the proposed revised noise ordinance would be. I think that just from administration standpoint, this is a more comprehensive, thorough, exhaustive list of all the potential factors, hours of operation, mitigating circumstances that are involved or could be considered when it comes to regulating any different variety of noise, whether it's from your vocal cords, from construction equipment, from a speaker, from a television. This covers it. So if there are any questions or critiques on this, please feel free to speak, and we'll take those into consideration. Otherwise, council could entertain a motion to advertise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we have a motion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Bob Demorad, 602 Ford Street. I guess Sal would be the best one for this one. Years ago, we had the enhanced noise ordinance. Is this an add-on to that, or is that off?
This is a complete replacement and what I would describe as a state-of-the-art noise ordinance. So I think it's better than what we formerly had.
Okay, because there was a lot involved with that 1 year ago.
And enforceability was always the issue, right? If you recall.
Well, we had a dB meter.
Yes.
Was it ever used?
Well, I can't speak to that.
I know a woman complained about the church bells on Fifth Street.
I remember the church bells being
Yeah.
a problem, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, but the noise, is that handled with a dB meter? Is that all legal beagle? Or are people going to be coming down here saying, hey, I got a citation for this noise and I'm not paying it?
Yeah, I think the enforceability issue is enhanced by this particular ordinance, and the standards are in line with conventional thinking. And I don't think you would find it to be more lax than the previous ordinance. I mean, certainly if it was a violation under the previous ordinance, it would very much likely be a violation under this ordinance.
All right, that's all I want to know.
Yeah, it'll clarify how we can actually handle things better.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion, Mr. Howell. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Ms. Nolan. Do you have any additional questions from council or the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Next up for council consideration, we have Resolution 2025-30, authorizing purchase of police patrol vehicle, uplifting Marriott's emergency equipment to $19,732.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion, Mr. Heil, second from Ms. Hauk. Do we have any questions or comments from council or the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. For council consideration, we have Resolution 2025-31, approving the settlement and general release agreement between the Borough of Bridgeport and Shannon Cell. Did we have a motion?
I will make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion from Ms. Hauk, second from Ms. Gundrum. Do we have any questions or comments from council or the public? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Next up here, we have a presentation, the 2026 draft general fund and sewer fund budgets from Mr. Truman.
Matt, I never saw somebody get out of their chair quicker.
I think I'll skip this one. I appreciate it.
Thanks again for coming. Thank you for your help. Have a good night. All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for enduring this evening's next step of the budget process. Tonight, it will be a presentation of the first draft of the general fund and sewer fund. So, I always like to start off by providing our elected officials and our audience members with a snapshot of where your tax dollar goes, insofar as your real estate tax dollar, that is. So, if anybody remembers last meeting, meaning Bridgeport Borough, in the aggregate, our total millage for the municipality is 41.882 mills. That includes county, the small set aside for the county community college, the borough tax, and the school district. That puts us 37th out of 62 municipalities in terms of highest to lowest millage rate. However, of those 41.882 mills, the borough only receives 12.23 of those. And from this pie chart, you can see the breakdown. 29% of that 41.882 is appropriated to the borough. 13% goes to the county, which in fact is ever growing. I was looking back at recent, very recent pie charts from previous presentations, and I remember when that number was about 3.5, 3.8 with the county, and the school district as well. They get the lion's share at 57% or 24.01 mils. So, as an example, take a residential property with an assessed value of $100,000, and honestly, the average assessed value for a home in Bridgeport hovers right in that $100,000 range. So, if your property is assessed at $100,000, your total real estate tax bill is, you would multiply 100,000 by 0.041882, and your total tax bill would be $4,188.20. $2,401 of that would go to the school district. $1,223 would go to the borough. $525.20 would go to the county, and the county community college would receive $39 of that. Again, going off of a example of a property assessed at $100,000, so take that $1,223, the Bridgeport share, divide that by 4188.20, comes out to 29%. So Bridgeport Borough receives 29 cents of every one of your property tax dollars. And because of aforementioned increases by both the county and the school district, that number is down from 30.5 last year and down from the previous year of 31.5. My goals, the manager's goals for the 2026 general fund budget, as well as the budget in general. Number one, no structural deficit. This means the avoidance of using fund reserves to balance the budget, being able to provide a balanced budget that demonstrates current year earnings and current year expenditures equaling out in the end, and not relying on money that the borough has in surplus in a bank account to float any disparities that we might incur. Number two, find a balance between project funding abilities and fiscal responsibility. And number three, continue improving borough infrastructure, amenities, services, and equipment, i.e. providing as high a quality of life as possible to our residents and stakeholders as we can. Without further ado, let's take a look at the general fund budget for next year, projected that is. So for 2026, our general fund budget is shaping up to come out to $6,874,500. This is an increase of $527,000, or an 8.3 increase over the 2025 budgeted figure of $6,347,500. And on your screen, you can see a pie chart delineating where each of those representative sources of revenue come from and how much of the overall general fund revenue they account for. Obviously, our largest revenue stream are our real estate or property taxes, estimated at $2.875 million next year, or 42% of the budget. Secondly, our earned income tax, or EIT, at $1.8 million, or 26% of the budget. Shortly behind that is other revenues, which is an overarching category making up several other smaller subcategories at just over $1.5 million, or 22% of the budget. A little bit behind that, at 5% of the budget, we have licenses and permits at $335,000, and then some other real estate transfer tax, $150,000, or 2% of the budget. And then we have some other smaller ones, such as local services tax, bond proceeds and rent, fines, that all account for about 1 or 2% of the budget each, respectively. Going through revenue stream category by category. Our primary revenue stream is taxes. We are looking at projected revenue of $4,905,000 in tax revenues next year. This is up $570,000 from the 2025 figure of $4.335 million. And if you look at the breakdown between each of the varying taxes, real estate taxes are coming in at $2.87 million, an increase of $520,000 from 2025. Earned income tax, $1.8 million. This is an increase in $200,000 compared to 2025 budgeted figures. Local services tax was actually increased last year from $70,000 to $80,000. We are tracking right at that $80,000 figure for 2 years in a row, so we are not projecting any change or increase to local services tax. And then looking at real estate transfer tax, we are budgeting a projection of $150,000 in revenue in that category next year, which is actually a reduction of 50%, $150,000 less than what we budgeted in 2025. And again, as I mentioned at the October 28th meeting, this is because the home construction is coming to an end in River Point. Therefore, a lot of our non-recurring one-time revenues, such as transfer tax and permits, are going to be eroding, coming to an end as the project so too comes to an end. Next revenue stream, permits. $335,000 we're projecting for permit revenues in 2026. Again, this is down $157,500 from this year's budgeted figure of $492,500. Building permits was budgeted at $275,000 this year, down $150,000 to $125,000 for 2026. As people continue to cut the cord, as they say, our cable commissions revenues continue to decrease. We are going from $65,000 to $60,000 in projected revenues in that category next year. And again, use and occupancy permits, which is tied to the riverfront development, budgeted at $22,000 this year. We are projecting $15,000 reduction in $7,000 for next year's budget. Next revenue stream, that aforementioned other revenues, kind of a catch-all for some varying items. 1.517 million and change. This is actually up 84,005 from our 2025 budgeted figure of 1,432,008. Trash fee revenue will be projected to increase by $96,000, going up to $915,000 in 2026. Donations and contributions, we are anticipating an increase in that, going from $10,000 to $20,000 in 2026. And then miscellaneous non-recurring revenue, which is exactly what it states. Revenue streams that come in at a finite rate, maybe one time, maybe one or two times, and then never again, or not with consistency that can be dedicated to its own revenue line item. That was budgeted at $75,000 this year. That is decreasing to $50,000 next year. Very small, but I do like to be as comprehensive as possible. One of our smaller revenue streams, income and rent, will be projected at $60,000 and change next year. That is up $30,000 from this year's budget. And the main reason for that is a projected increase in interest income, going from $20,000 projected, or $20,000 budgeted in 2025 to $50,000 budgeted in 2026. And that constitutes the majority of the increases and or significant decreases in revenue that we are looking at for the 2026 budget. Moving forward, we will now look at expenditures for next year's general fund. Again, because we are in the state of Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania requires municipalities to present a balanced budget, just like our revenues, our expenditures in the general fund budget next year are set at $6,874,500. Again, this is an increase of $527,000, or 8.3% year over year from the 2025 budgeted expenses. And here is a breakdown of where those monies are expended. The largest piece of that pie chart is salaries. 38% of our expenses go to salaries, $2,630,000, followed by insurance costs, 16% of the budget, or $1,084,000 in change. Utilities are following right behind that, $981,225, or 14% of the budget. Administrative expenses, $553,950, or 8% of the budget. Miscellaneous general expenses, $407,000, or 6% of the budget. Debt service, $602,720, 9% of the budget. Pension expenses, 5% of the budget at $347,840. And then some other smaller items such as miscellaneous administrative expenses, repairs, general expenses for police, vehicle operating costs, all hovering in that 1% or slightly less than 1% of the budget region. As always, please feel free to stop me with any questions. Let's review general fund expenditures. As noted, the largest portion of that pie chart, salaries, $2,648,245. That is up $34,465 from 2025's budget of $2.613 million. And looking at each of the categories, administrative and the manager salaries account for $417,000. That's an increase of $20,000. Police salaries are coming in at $1.415 million and change. That is actually a reduction by $42,430. And that is not a reduction in overall staffing. It's merely a change in the staffing, going from older, more seasoned officers to younger officers that obviously enter lower on the salary scale. Next up, part-time police salaries coming in at $165,000, or an increase in $10,000. After that, building and codes expenses for the building and codes department, $168,000. That's a reduction of $29,000 in change. However, we are adding a new expenditure, third-party inspection services, $50,000 earmarked for that expense, which comes with the restructuring of the building and codes department. Moving on to street crew salaries, that comes in at $308,000 and change, an increase of $12,000 next year. And street crew overtime coming in at $45,000, which is an increase of $14,000 year over year. Next up, administrative expenses. The grand total of this category, parent category, is $552,950 for the 26 budget. That is up $107,000 from 2025's figure of $445,950. And then running through some of the larger expenses within this parent category, no change in budgeted office supplies. A $14,000 increase in IT costs up to $40,000, and this is specifically because our server has reached its, it is out of warranty and out of coverage, so therefore we need to purchase a new server next year. Otherwise, if our server were to crash and we were to lose our server, it would not be recoverable. We would not have tech support to help us recover anything should we have an outage or a crash of the server, which would be horribly detrimental to the livelihood of our operations. Next up, police department office supplies, an increase of $2,000 up to $13,000 next year. IT consultant services would be a reduction by $5,000 down to $30,000 next year. Administrative expenses, $55,000, an increase of $8,000. Legal expenses, $160,000, which is an increase of $45,000 from 2025 to 2026. And I will just publicly make the disclaimer that legal expenses accounts for all of the attorneys that work for the municipality. This is not solely the solicitor. This is comprised of labor counsel. This is again, a parent category that accounts for more than just one vendor. Engineering expenses budgeted at $70,000 for 2026. That's an increase in $35,000. And I will make the note that this is not a result of any large increase in contracted costs with our engineering vendor. This is just merely bringing a figure that has, been tracking higher in recent years up to a more reasonable figure as we and as council and administration look to create and provide more amenities for our community, whether it's parks, parking lots, other large infrastructural projects. This requires designing and planning by our engineer, and those designs and plans are labor intensive and they cost money. So we subsequently, as we provide more amenities to the community, need to set aside more money in engineering and design costs. And then finally, for this category, telephone expenses up $2,000 to $27,000 next year. Next up, miscellaneous administrative expenses, $51,500, up $7,700 from 2025's figure of $43,008. This is predominantly constitutes a addition of a DNA program, a county DNA program that Chief Beretta is enrolling the police department in next year, and a small increase in police equipment costs for next year. Next up in our expenditures, materials and supplies, $38,000, an increase of $4,500 in 2025's budget. And you see the two small increases here in both municipal and police material and supply. And then we have utilities coming in at $981,225. This is up $99,000 and change from the 2025 figure of $882,185, and resulting from a relatively large increase in electricity as electricity rates continue to increase. Water rates continue to increase, 10,000 and 8,000 increases there respectively. And then, as mentioned previously, an increase in our contracted trash expense going up by $80,040 to $901,225 next year. And to remind council and residents that we are in year 4 of a 5-year contract for our residential trash and recycling services. We are entering 2026. That's the highlighted figure there. We'll be spending, contractually obligated to pay $901,188 to our contractor next year. And to, because trash rates, like other utilities, such as sewer fees, are utility bills essentially, and pass through expenses that borough revenues do not subsidize, pass through to our residents. The residential trash and recycling collection fee will increase by $10 in 2026, going from $520 per year to $530 per year in 2026.
But to put that into context, because of a growing population, while it's a significant percentage increase overall, it's less of a burden than it would have been without the additional people paying into it. So
that's correct, and it's our smallest trash increase rate increase since probably going from 2022 or 2021 to 2022. The other ones from 22 to 23, 23 to 24, and 24 to 25 were significantly greater than this.
And that's hard to see from this because it's 9 versus 5 versus 4, but that's just the reality of it.
Next up, miscellaneous general expenses, i.e. contributions, coming in at $407,000, up $32,000 from $375,000 last year. And this includes an increase in our general contribution to our fire companies, up $15,000 to $85,000 next year. And then our overall general fire protection line item expense going up $10,000 to $150,000 next year. Insurances up $11,000, almost $12,000 from 2025. And you can see they are relatively nominal increases, about an $8,000 increase in our overall health prescription and dental costs, and then some relatively minor increases in our payroll taxes, workers' comp, and cyber liability policies. And then finally, one of our other larger increases is debt service for 2026. It is projected to come in at $602,000. That is a $221,000, 260 increase from the 2025 budgeted number of $380,740. And you can see our projected interest is set to increase by $110,000, almost $111,000, and also by about $110,000 for our debt service principal.
Do you remind us what this is? Because I remember you saying that one of them was going to be dropped off. The dates, just so a little bit more context.
What our debt service constitutes?
Yeah.
Our debt service is comprised of 6 different borrowings that the borough has engaged in over the years for a host of different reasons, whether it was tax anticipation notes that the municipality used to have to borrow many years ago. There was a borrowing in 2017 for a fire truck. There was a borrowing to perform some sewer work some years ago. The reason for these increases is for which I will get to in a couple slides from now, the projected $3 million borrowing that we are going to need to do in order to acquire a strategic piece of property next year, President.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if it was like one of them jumped after 5 years or 10 years, like you mentioned.
Excuse me. And then finally, from our primary expenditure categories, pension contributions coming in at $347,840, which is down about $4,400 from last year. Non-uniform pension is increasing slightly by about $1,700, and police pension, these are our MMOs, our minimum municipal obligations, will be decreasing by about $6,000. And this is the point where I need to inform council that there should be or needs to be consideration of a real estate tax increase. Real estate taxes and earned income tax revenues are projecting to increase, but at the same time, other revenue streams are projected to decrease by $337,000 in 2026. Operating expenses continue to increase, as they will continue to do. Further, multiple planned capital projects, including the acquisition of strategic properties throughout the borough, are projecting to necessitate a significant borrowing and increase in debt service in 2026. An increase of 1 mil, which equates to 0.001% to our municipal millage rate, would provide the funding needed to account for the majority, if not all, of the projected debt service increase in 2026. So our old municipal millage rate, or current year municipal millage rate, which we have held fast to for 16 years, is 12.23 mils, or 1.223%. The necessary new municipal millage rate is 13.23 mils, or 1.323%. And to give council and our audience an idea of what this millage impact would be, I took examples from 3 very different homes, 3 very different types of housing stock in 3 different parts of the borough to project the impact. Number 1, you have a home on Bush Street that is assessed at $77,380. Their current tax bill is $946.36 annually. Their new tax bill would be $1,044.63, an annual increase of $98.27. You have a home on Grove Street assessed at $105,000. Their current tax bill at the 12.23 mils is $1,284.15. Their new tax bill would be $1,417.50, an increase of $133 and change annually. And then you have a home on Holstein Street, relatively almost brand new construction, assessed at $145,850. Their current tax bill is $1,783.75. The new tax bill at 13.23 mils would be $1,968.98, or a $185.23% annual increase. As mentioned earlier on in the budget presentation, the average assessed value of a Bridgeport home sits right around $100,000. Therefore, a 1 mil increase would equate to an annual tax increase of around $100 for the average home in Bridgeport. Before I move on to the sewer fund budget for 2026, are there any questions?
I'll just make a comment that over the past few years, when we have not raised any taxes, a lot of that has been because of a substantial tax increase at another, whether it's school board or county, and it not seeming fair to give a double hit, or with new development, it also not seeming fair, to me at least, because we were getting all those revenues like in the last couple of years, and now that situation has changed. So I appreciate Keith and the staff here at monitoring that, so that when this comes, it's obviously not a huge burden, but also taking into account the human factor, that it's not doubling up on some other thing happening at the same time, especially during the pandemic a few years ago. So we had some tough conversations in 2020 and 2021 about budgeting, and we were able to manage those things very well considering what was happening, and that leads us to having minor increases now, as opposed to having to deal with multiple increases over the past few years.
All right, hearing and seeing no further questions, I'll move on to the sewer fund budget, which is far less painful. Sewer fund revenue, 2026 is projecting out to be $1,585,560. This is a $26,000 and change, or 1.7% increase over the 2025 budgeted figure of $1.559 million. As noted, $26,000 increase in revenues projected for 2026. Overall sewer fee revenue coming from residential ratepayers is set to increase by $115,560 up to $1.365 million, and this is resultant from almost exclusively the new properties added in the riverfront development. However, again, just like permit fees and transfer taxes, the sewer fund is also feeling the pinch here, and tap-in fees are another one of those one-time revenues that have helped buoy our operating budget for the last couple years as River Point was developed. However, they are set to reduce down to $70,000 next year, a reduction by $109,000 in revenue. And then interest income, an increase of about $20,000, projecting to earn $40,000 in interest income next year. Moving on to sewer fund expenditures, again, same figure, and that is a typo, $1.585 million, which is up $26,460 from $1.559 in 2025. Payroll expenses increasing by $14,700. Plant chemicals increasing by $1,000. Lab work and testing reduced by $2,000. Sludge removal is another one of the services that is increasing at an exorbitant rate. We raised that from $20,000 to $40,000 in last year's budget. It now needs to go from $40,000 to $60,000 in this year's budget. However, line cleaning can reduce from $30,000 to $15,000 next year, so we can save some money there. Healthcare, prescription, and dental set to increase by about $17,500. And our workers' comp policy, due to some favorable rates, we can reduce this by $2,000 next year. Looking at a pie chart of our projected, where our expenses are appropriated, is a relatively even split in the sewer fund between payroll, professional services, and utilities and supplies. All hover right around that 26 to 30% range in terms of how much of the overall budget they exhaust. Shortly behind that is bond service, or bonds or debt service, 13% of the budget at $202,000 and change. And then the intermunicipal sewer rental agreement that we have with Upper Marion Township comes in at a very small 2% of our expenses. Are there any questions on the draft sewer fund budget for next year? All right, very good. Thank you all. That concludes the budget presentation for this evening. Next meeting, we will have more formalized general fund and sewer fund figures, and we will also go through the liquid fuels and capital fund budgets and firm those up prior to ultimately council motioning to advertise and then subsequently adopt at one of the December meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for all the effort and work you and the staff put in on this. Right, we can move on to unfinished business. Are there any items of unfinished business anyone would like to discuss? All right, we can move on to committee reports. Are there any committee reports this evening? All right, we can move on to the mayor's report. Mayor Jackson.
Thank you. Just first want to congratulate everyone who won their races this past election day. I'm excited to see how you're all going to be serving our community in new and exciting ways. Next, I wish to extend my gratitude to the Bridgeport Community Fund for hosting their annual Veterans Day ceremony and for inviting me to speak. While it was quite windy out there this morning, it was clear that the crowd stood steadfast in its support of our community's veterans. Happy Veterans Day to all who have served. We appreciate your courage and sacrifices. And finally, don't forget to join us for the free estate planning program next Thursday, November 20th at 6:30 p.m. right here in Borough Hall. We'll be learning the important basics of how you should get your affairs in order at any age to provide the best future for your loved ones. So thank you. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, we can move to the chief's report. Chief?
Good evening, Bridgeport. Tomorrow, right here in this room, there's going to be Emergency Operations Center class training that's going to last from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. If you're thinking whether or not you too can join in with our Murray gang, you can. So just email me, call me, or Bob, you're welcome to come join in. I could always use some more people. So we'd like to have you. That's just for general, it's a very basic course on general operations. It's going to be taught by Deputy EMC Al Condello. So that's coming up tomorrow. We will be having a click it or ticket program, which will extend from about now on through Thanksgiving. So we'll be putting out some additional information on the Facebook page of the police department about using your seatbelts, being cautious when driving, and then we will have officers out conducting additional enforcement. We received our new 54-3 car. It's a replacement for about a 12 or 13-year-old car that we had. It's a 2026, so we thank council for providing the funds for that. And we'll be get it upfitted, and hopefully we'll be able to get that on the road shortly in the next couple weeks. It'll be of great use to us, so thank you. In October, we had 25 listed crimes, 22 were closed by arrest, with 30 total persons charged. So excellent work. If you see something, say something, call so we can do something about it. Don't wait and talk about it with your neighbors first. Reach out. Call us, call 911. You're not going to be putting us out. We just want that phone call. Also, just noting the lighting down by Front Street. I know that there used to be some Pico poles with some low voltage lighting that no longer are there. I don't know if that's something we can increase the lighting there, especially if we do some parks or things like that in the area of Depot Street, down Front Street. Additional lighting would be helpful.
Would that be where the new park's going to be?
I believe so.
Yeah, so maybe that's something we should consider in the engineering of that.
Just some
There will be lights in our park.
lights are good. Of course, children riding bikes and scooters, they're gonna play, they're gonna ride. It's getting darker earlier. Please be careful. Moms and dads, did you know that you're supposed to have a retroreflective disc on the back and a headlight after hours? Do you know that certain children might need or be required to wear helmets? Please consider these things as it gets darker and with the normal traffic flow. I spoke before about the electric scooters, not being allowed to transit roadways and private property, but some of these electrified vehicles are moving more quickly. People can say that, well, we don't have to, why should we have to wear a seatbelt in a car when a person riding a motorcycle doesn't have to? Well, that's just the current law. But for the safety of our children, please pay attention, watch out. And then in the future, I'll be speaking with staff to see if we could do further upgrades to certain stop signed intersections with some solar lighting that might have a chaser light around it, so to catch people's attention. Should we have to? Not necessarily, but it would be perhaps in our interest at special places where we have additional crosswalks that aren't with the light, maybe something to think about with our future infrastructure. And finally, the school bus program that I met with the Upper Merion Area School District, West Conshohocken, and Upper Merion Police Departments is going to go into effect in December. These will have additional cameras on our school buses. If someone were to pass a school bus that have the signage, it's going to record it. It's going to go back to the school bus program, and then we will get the encapsulated videos to see if it meets our requirements, and then citations will be issued. So I'm asking you now, so if you pay fast and loose around school buses, don't. It will be captured, and you'll be getting tickets sent automatically. Our kids are our most precious commodity in Bridgeport, and with more traffic and less attention to detail, we just ask you to pay attention, even if it's just to save money from leaving your pockets. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I actually had a quick question. I was on DeKalb yesterday going towards like Tiffin, like we're past Target, and I saw a bus stop on the other side of those apartment buildings, and there was an inconsistency in how people reacted to the bus because we were in a separate lane. What were we supposed to do in that instance, since you're on the topic?
With divided highways,
Bus?
yeah, with the divided highways, anything on your side of the, if there's a concrete divider where traffic's going to stop. If it's a non-divided highway, then all lanes should stop.
If it was divided, then people should have kept going, because there was people that stopped completely, there's people that went.
If you're on the same side as a school bus, you'd stop.
But on the other side, though?
If it's fully divided, no.
Okay, cool.
But again, it's you'll see the signs, and they should be discharging people to one side, especially in those busy routes.
Yeah.
So that they're not crossing, and especially so that any children on a very busy highway can then cross at a signalized intersection.
All right. Thank you, Chief. I also just want to thank you and your staff and like the police officers for constantly showing up at all of our events. It was really nice to see you today and see some officers as well. Just it's really nice to kind of have that consistency and the ability to build relationships. So I appreciate you guys. All right.
Chief, in addition to that, two things on traffic or driving. One, I appreciate the click it and ticket, but also people have been bringing up distracted driving. I know there's new laws on that, so just make sure that that's being promoted as we're watching that. And then people have been concerned for months now about the traffic on DeKalb, that I think a lot of that's been because of the 202 issues in King of Prussia. So just keep us alert if the situation with traffic and people going through lights, et cetera, is easing with that finally being opened. So hopefully it will get better, but just let us know if that's enough or if we need to do more.
Will do. If you notice in packets of information I'm supplying, I have electronic speed boards out gathering information that are coming off of West Valley Forge Road, because I've seen an increase of, sometimes there could be 30, 35 cars stacked at a certain specific time coming off of West Valley Forge Road onto Schuylkill Parkway and into Bridgeport. On Ross Road, West 5th Street, I've been tracking those travels too, to look at certain times to see if it matches with our concerns. We have had a couple more accidents at West 5th Street, and we have also been going out daily and conducting enforcement, including having police officers stand underneath the signs to point to the cars that are coming up to the intersection that they can't make. It's a right turn only. So we'll continue to do that. And hopefully with whatever projects are coming into the area of 5th and DeKalb and trailhead type stuff, that may help alleviate and increase the possibility that we get signalization at that intersection at West 5th and DeKalb Streets.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. And I also know that a few weeks ago, when I was at Ross Road waiting to make the right onto DeKalb so I can properly get back to my house here in Bridgeport, but I did notice a number of people who were going up the wrong way on Marion Street because they were just too impatient waiting for the people who were trying to make the left after 4 p.m. onto DeKalb from Ross Road. So I'm hoping that now that 202 is open and there's like less people hopefully going on Ross Road, that won't be as much of an issue anymore. But please do not have the audacity to go down the wrong way on one-way streets. And hopefully our officers are also aware that that is an issue.
Got it.
Thank you, Chief. All right, we can move on to new business. Any items of new business anyone wants to discuss? All right, we can move on to open forums and announcements. Are there any announcements this evening? One quick announcement I have, given kind of the current climate, we're having some neighbors that are likely experiencing food shortages of sorts, and we want to just make sure that everybody feels welcomed and supported. There's plenty of people in town that are kind of running different drives, so definitely keep an eye on Facebook to check and see if you are in need. You can always reach out to any of us, and we'll direct you to proper organizations or connections that might be able to help. We are going to have a really quick food drive and food giveaway at 4th Street Cafe this Sunday from 2:30 to about 4, where we'll have some free food. We're all cooking meals, and we'll be giving them away. And as well as whatever we raise. We're currently accepting food donations either by reaching out to us or by dropping them off at Junebug Sweet Treats. And that's kind of the location that we'll centralize a lot of this activity on. So if you have some extra food at home, or if you are going to the grocery store and just want to pick up an extra can, it's really useful. I've had personally at least 7 people reach out to me in a week, which is significant considering the number of people that we have in this town. So it's likely that people that you know and love are struggling right now, and I hope that you consider helping us out in our community. Are there any additional announcements this evening?
I actually had a quick question about that. Thank you for doing that. I guess you're in charge of that? Like you said, to reach out if there's any questions or anything. Who's part of this?
Yeah, I mean, Junebugs is one of the main contacts. Laura's been involved in it. Diane's been involved in it. I've been involved in it. But I could imagine if anyone wanted to reach out to anyone on council or the mayor just to get directed, that's it. I don't know that I'm in charge of it necessarily. There's a lot of people that want to help and a lot of people that need help. So I'm just kind of trying to operate with whoever wants to be involved to get to the next, just to kind of get to the I guess it's not a solution, but to the event, however yeah, I'm not necessarily in charge of it. There's just a lot of people that have reached out saying, hey, I want to help, and a lot of people that have reached out saying that they need help, and I've just tried to facilitate that relationship. Thank you for the question.
Madam President, just Mom's Meals has been a consistent helpmate for Bridgeport when we're in jeopardy, whether it was the fires, at least 75 dry casks worth of a week's worth of food for multiple people, and each cask were provided during the fire, helped us during the floods, and so forth. So I'm waiting on additional foods and a reply to foods. I had about 250 shelf-stable microwave meals, given some to a Growing Bridgeport and for the pantry. So if there is something in the short term that can't be met by the pantry, because the Upper Merion cupboard does such a great job, but to reach out, and I'll let the important parties know if I get a significant amount of shelf-stable food that we could use to supply the pantries and for anybody else that's in need.
Thank you, Chief, and I've personally seen them in the pantry, so thank you so much, and thank you to Diane and John for running the pantry for us and for stocking it and constantly keeping it clean and up to date with things. It's definitely huge, and I know that, the few times that we've been trying to track and help them, within 2 hours, if it was full, it was gone, so, there definitely is a need. All right, the additional announcements this evening?
I really appreciate the pantry and that people can get the short-term needs, especially midweek. I'm at the cupboard every week, which it's not that much, but that I'm able to do. But the infrastructure they have built there over years has meant that people can get a whole week's worth of food with refrigerated food as well, and meat and dairy products. So those are really cases for if there's neighbors who, are having long-term issues or they need something for a family. So if you find out through your work and that there are people who, they're going through some tough times and maybe they need to be connected with not just for Wednesday, but for the next few weeks, please let the cupboard know. Angela at the cupboard is very active, and they've gotten more resources from the county and all levels of government actually recently. So they've really improved the infrastructure. But when I've noticed that you'll find out people on your street who you had no idea are getting regular help from the cupboard, and not to call anyone up, but you'll just notice, oh, my neighbors who live down the street from me, they need this assistance. So really puts in perspective all the people that are out there. So just putting that out there.
Thank you. All right. We can move on to public comment. Are there any members of the public that wish to comment this evening? All right, we can. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't see you there. The computer was covering.
Anybody at all?
Oh, the computer is covering. Please state your name and address, please.
June Charles, 516 DeKalb Street in Bridgeport. One thing to Tony, yes, when they do reach out, because I'm one of the main contacts, I do put them in contact with Angela, who runs the community cupboard, so that answers your question. Question is about, with us hitting low temperatures, is there a list of our elderly neighbors that needs to be checked on, or heating, anything at all in place that we can look out for those people?
So there are a number of heating programs, and whether they're state or federal, we'll see how those are funded now with LIHEAP. That's another one of the many things that we're afraid of cuts. So you can if you know of neighbors, you can either tell them to reach out to council, and we can reach out to the other, the state. I know I've reached out to our state legislators in the past about people in wintertime who had issues, and they were able to address rather quickly.
Okay.
So that's helpful, and we can just text them, and it's been very helpful, whether it's us or Keith or someone else. So it's usually a case-by-case basis, and there's state, sometimes federal programs. The state programs are usually very quick at addressing it.
Yes, not as, I guess what I'm looking at is more of on a personal level, just like a wellness check. There's a lot of elderly, and today was Veterans Day, and I took the pleasure of walking around to a lot of veterans who are either, not doing well or have been sick. And one thing I noticed is that we kind of lack in that area. We don't really check on our old people. And so that's why I asked if there was a list available or if there was just anything in place that we know who they are. And not that council has to check on them, but if it is readily available, then we can do the checks. We have people that are willing to do the checks.
Yeah, I don't know if there's not a public list, but I know the cupboard does have a number of people who are not just elderly, but people who are on their list to check in the general area. So I've checked in on some people through that list as well, and it's always good to find out from neighbors because people won't tell you themselves. So I will check on people I know, and I'm sure everyone here does in one way or another. But it's always good to hear because there's new neighbors sometimes. It could be that someone else, I know from people because they'll say, oh, my neighbor is going through tough times, got an injury or something. So it's good to get that percolating up, and then we can be aware and check in on them as well.
But
It's not like there's a public list.
To answer your question, June, we don't have a comprehensive list of addresses and the demographics in each household, census-driven data, basically. That's not something that the municipality is privy to. I'm sure, as others have alluded to, that local organizations and if you're, church groups and whatnot are aware of their own parishioners and where they live and whatnot, but that's not data that we would have access to on our own, unfortunately.
Okay.
Sounds like a good opportunity to collaborate with a couple of organizations, maybe do some thinking on it. We'll do some thinking on it, and we can come together separately and decide on how to move forward, because I think it's a wonderful idea. It's something that I, in door knocking in the last couple of years, I found that that's really a sore spot, people feeling like maybe not as connected to the community one way or another, because, I think that what you're doing is really beautiful. So thank you for doing it.
All right, thank you.
Madam President, just with regards, I was in the emergency management coordinator in the EPZ, the 10-mile EPZ of Limerick before. When you have that, we send out surveys, we gather information, and it could be people that are deaf, people that are wheelchair bound, people that have language barriers, and we could put out a survey through the borough asking for people that might have certain things that we could gather for emergency management purposes. So if there was a disaster, well, I could send or dispatch people to certain places if there's a certain specified thing, because I know there's somebody in jeopardy. That aside, that's not a bad idea to survey within the community for a reason. That doesn't mean it's going to be open for everybody, that information. Secondly, if there is a problem with somebody specifically, if you know somebody's sick, hasn't shown up for work, those kinds of things, the police department can do a welfare check in that. We just don't do general checks across the board, but we can do those things. And lastly, for the people, a lot of the people that we're going to be concerned about are people that don't have shelter. So they're going to be out there. They're not going to be going to the cupboard. They're going to be going to the little pantry. They're not going to be inside with a slight heat issue. They're going to be trying to survive. There's a list of shelters, so when it becomes super cold, there's one on 800 block of Halls Avenue in Norristown. There's a few different shelters where people can seek to get assistance, and generally as it gets colder, I remind our officers and give them with an updated list of those shelters so that the people that are in jeopardy for those situations have someplace to go to.
Thank you, Chief. All right, are there any additional members of the public?
Hi, Heather Kazenza, 126 Second Street. The issue with the cupboard, unfortunately, is they can't deliver anymore. What they're doing right now is all they have. So if we have elderly that doesn't drive, there's no way for them to get there. And that's what I'm having a hard time. I Ubered people there today, and I don't have the money for that, but we have to get them there. So if we can come up with a list of people that can drive people there or become a proxy, and they can pick stuff up for them, but they cannot deliver to any more houses than there already are. So that is an issue. Also, June, most of the neighbors know their neighbors, so like on a street-by-street basis, people do check in with their neighbors. I don't want you to think that we don't. Most people are accounted for.
Thank you, Heather. And if anyone wants to volunteer to drive, feel free to reach out to Heather. It sounds like you have it organized. Yeah. All right. Is there any additional members of the public wish to comment? All right. We can certainly entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right. It's 9:14. We adjourn. Thanks, everyone.